Li Jiwan stood in the grand hall of Nexus Prime and tried not to panic. The massive space station floated between stars, hosting diplomats from hundreds of alien species. Crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings so high they disappeared into artificial clouds. Creatures of every imaginable shape moved through the crowd, speaking languages that sounded like music, grinding stones, or digital static. Jiwan tugged at his formal diplomatic uniform. The collar felt too tight. He was 28 years old and had been a cultural liaison officer for only 2 years. This reception was supposed to be routine. Show up, smile, don't cause an incident. Simple. Ambassador Park Minji had briefed him that morning. "Just observe today," she had said. "The Valoran delegation will be here. Don't approach them unless they speak to you first. They're very particular about protocol." Jiwan knew about the Valorans. Everyone did. They controlled 40 star systems and had never lost a war in their 1,000-year history. Their Empress was legendary, a warrior who had ruled for 2 centuries. Humans had only joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago. Compared to the Valorans, humanity was barely a blip in galactic history. He grabbed a glass of something blue and fizzy from a passing server drone. The liquid tasted like starlight and metal. Across the hall, he spotted Kim Suho, his friend and fellow diplomat. Suho gave him a thumbs up and mouthed the words, "Don't mess up." Very helpful. The crowd suddenly shifted. Conversations dropped to whispers. Jiwan turned and felt his heart stop. The Valoran delegation had arrived. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like polished bronze. Their eyes glowed faintly golden. They moved with perfect military precision, each step synchronized. But it was the woman in the center who commanded attention. Empress Hara walked like gravity bent around her. She wore deep purple robes that seemed to absorb light. Her face was sharp and beautiful in a way that made Jiwan think of sword edges. A crown of black metal rested on her head, simple but absolute. She looked at the gathered aliens with an expression of distant courtesy, like a goddess observing mortals. Jiwan meant to look away. He really did. But their eyes met across the hall. For one heartbeat, the Empress looked directly at him. Then her gaze moved on, dismissing him as unimportant. Something in Jiwan's chest tightened. Not attraction, exactly. More like the feeling of standing at the edge of a cliff. The reception continued. Jiwan tried to focus on his assignment, observing diplomatic interactions and taking mental notes. But he kept noticing the Empress. She spoke briefly with the Korvax ambassador, a reptilian creature covered in blue scales. She nodded to the insectoid delegates from the hive worlds. Every movement was controlled, measured, perfect. She looked lonely. The thought surprised Jiwan. How could the most powerful being in the galaxy be lonely? But something in the way she held herself, the careful distance she maintained from everyone, reminded him of himself at diplomatic functions. Always performing, never quite connecting. 2 hours into the reception, disaster struck in the form of good intentions. Jiwan was near the refreshment area when Empress Hara approached, alone for the first time. Her guards remained at a respectful distance. She was examining a display of earth flowers, brought as a gift from the human delegation. Her fingers hovered over a white lotus without touching it. This was Jiwan's job. Cultural liaison, building bridges. He had spent weeks studying Valoran customs for exactly this kind of moment. He stepped forward. "Your Imperial Majesty," he said in careful Valoran. The language felt strange in his mouth, all hard consonants and rolling vowels. The beauty of leadership reflects in those who appreciate beauty's smaller forms. He had found the phrase in a Valoran cultural database. It was supposed to be a compliment, acknowledging how a great leader could still appreciate simple things. As he spoke, Jiwan placed his right hand over his heart and bowed, exactly as the database had shown. It was meant to show respect. The Empress turned to face him fully. Her golden eyes widened slightly. Around them, every Veloran in the hall went absolutely still. Ji-Wan felt sweat forming on his back. Had he mispronounced something? Used an insult by mistake? Empress Hara stared at him for what felt like an eternity. The entire hall had gone quiet. Even aliens who didn't know Veloran customs sensed something significant had happened. Then the Empress spoke, her voice clear and formal. Indeed. One word. Just one word. But the Veloran guards immediately moved forward, not threateningly, but with purpose. They surrounded Ji-Wan in a loose circle. The head guard, a stern woman with scars across her bronze skin, placed a hand on his shoulder. "What's happening?" Ji-Wan asked in panicked English. Ambassador Park Minji appeared at his side, her face pale. She grabbed his arm and pulled him away from the Velorans. "Conference room, now!" "But I just... Move!" They rushed through corridors, Park Minji practically dragging Ji-Wan. Kim Suho caught up with them, looking confused and worried. They burst into a small diplomatic office and sealed the door. "What did I do?" Ji-Wan demanded. "I just tried to compliment her." Park Minji sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. "Ji-Wan, what exactly did you say? And what gesture did you make?" He repeated the phrase and demonstrated the hand-over-heart bow. Suho's eyes went wide. "Oh no." "Oh no what?" Ji-Wan looked between them. "What does that mean?" Park Minji pulled up a holographic display, fingers flying across controls. Text in Veloran appeared, then translated to Korean. She read it aloud, her voice hollow. The phrase, beauty of leadership, reflects in those who appreciate beauty's smaller forms, is used exclusively in one context. Combined with the hand-over-heart gesture, it constitutes a formal marriage proposal under ancient Veloran law. The room spun. Ji-Wan sat down before he fell down. "A what?" "You proposed marriage to Empress Hara." Park Minji looked at him like he'd just declared war on the entire galaxy. "And she said, indeed. In Veloran culture, that means she accepted. But I didn't mean it was just a compliment. I got it from the database." Suho was already typing frantically on his tablet. "The cultural database has a warning label right here. See? Caution. This phrase is matrimonial. Use only with explicit intent." It's in red. Flashing red. Ji-Wan had been so focused on pronouncing the words correctly that he'd skipped the warnings. He felt sick. Park Minji was reading something else, her expression growing more dire by the second. Under Veloran law, a proposal accepted by the Imperial line is absolutely binding. Breaking the engagement is considered an act of war. She looked up at Ji-Wan. "Do you understand what that means? The Veloran Empire has 40 star systems and a military that could turn Earth into dust. If you reject her now, they will interpret it as humanity insulting their Empress. There will be war." "There has to be a way out," Suho said. "We can explain it was a mistake. Cultural misunderstanding." "Velorans don't care about intent," Park Minji said grimly. "Only actions. The proposal was made publicly. She accepted publicly. In their eyes, it's done." Someone knocked on the door. They all jumped. A Veloran guard stood outside, her expression neutral. "Li Ji-Wan is summoned to the Empress's flagship. His belongings will be transported. He is now the Imperial Consort Designate. He will reside aboard the Eternal Dawn during the traditional 6-month engagement period." "6 months?" Ji-Wan whispered. The guard's golden eyes fixed on him. 6 months to prove worthiness. At the end, the Empress will decide if the union proceeds or if an honorable separation is granted. Refusal to participate results in dishonor to both parties and is considered a declaration of hostility. She turned and walked away, clearly expecting Ji-Wan to follow. Park Minji grabbed Ji-Wan's shoulders. Listen to me. You have to do this. 6 months. Learn their culture, go through their customs, and pray that the Empress grants separation at the end. It's the only way to avoid war. I can't marry an alien Empress, Jiwan's voice cracked. I'm nobody. I'm just a mid-level diplomat who made a stupid mistake. You're humanity's only chance right now, Park Minji said. I'm sorry, Jiwan, I really am. But you have to go. Kim Suho pulled him into a quick hug. I'll request assignment to the flagship as your cultural advisor. You won't be alone. The Valoran guard reappeared in the doorway. Lee Jiwan, now! Jiwan walked on numb legs. This couldn't be happening. This morning, he'd woken up worried about remembering the names of minor ambassadors. Now he was engaged to the most powerful being in the galaxy, and one wrong move could destroy humanity's future among the stars. The guard led him to a docking bay where a sleek Valoran shuttle waited. Through the viewport, Jiwan could see the eternal dawn in the distance. The flagship was enormous, a city in space, all sharp angles and dark metal. As the shuttle departed Nexus Prime, Jiwan watched Earth's delegation grow smaller. He was leaving everything familiar behind. 6 months. 6 months engaged to an alien Empress who could crush him with one hand. Somewhere on that massive ship, Empress Hara waited. Jiwan wondered what she was thinking. Did she regret accepting? Was this some political game he didn't understand? The shuttle approached the eternal dawn, and Jiwan closed his eyes. His life had just changed forever because he'd tried to pay someone a compliment. The universe, he decided, had a cruel sense of humor. 6 months. He just had to survive 6 months. The shuttle landed in a hangar that could have held 50 Earth buildings. Jiwan stepped out onto polished black floors that reflected the lights above like still water. Valoran crew members stopped their work to stare at him. Their golden eyes followed his every movement. Nobody looked friendly. A tall Valoran woman in military armor approached. Her face was stern, with 3 parallel scars running down her left cheek. I am Commander Yuna, Chief of Imperial Security. You will follow me. She turned and walked without checking if Jiwan followed. He hurried to keep up with her long strides. The corridors of the eternal dawn were massive and cold. Everything was metal and sharp edges. Symbols in Valoran script glowed on the walls. Jiwan saw more crew members. Some whispered as he passed. Others looked at him with what he could only describe as contempt. They hate me, Jiwan said quietly. Commander Yuna glanced back. They question you. Humans are new to the Council, weak in their eyes. Our Empress has refused 10,000 proposals over 2 centuries. Then she accepts a human who made a mistake. Her tone made clear she shared their doubts. They took an elevator that traveled for what felt like forever. When the doors opened, Jiwon found himself in quarters that were larger than his entire apartment on Earth. A massive window showed the stars outside. Furniture that looked both beautiful and uncomfortable filled the space. You will stay here, Yuna said. Someone will bring your belongings. The Empress requires your presence in 1 hour. Dress formally. She left before Jiwon could ask what formally meant for an accidental alien fiancé. Jiwon sat on something that might have been a chair and put his head in his hands. This was insane. Completely insane. A day ago, his biggest worry was finishing his reports on time. Now he was on an alien warship, engaged to an Empress, with an entire crew who thought he was unworthy. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened to reveal Kim Suho, carrying a bag. They approve my transfer, Suho said, grinning. I'm officially your cultural advisor, also your friend who will keep you from having a breakdown. Jiwon stood and hugged him. Thank you. I thought I'd be alone here. Not a chance. Suho set the bag down. I brought your things and did some research. The 6-month engagement period is traditional. The Empress will test your compatibility with Valoran culture. If you fail, Or if either of you wants out, there's an honorable separation clause. No war, no shame, everyone walks away. That's good news, right? Yes, but there's a catch. You have to genuinely try. If the Empress thinks you're just going through the motions, that's an insult. And insulting the Empress is very bad for humanity's reputation. Ji-won sank back onto the chair thing. So I have to pretend to want to marry her while also hoping she'll decide to let me go? Basically, Suho pulled out a formal suit. But here's the interesting part. I accessed the Valoran historical records. Empress Hera has never accepted anyone before, never even came close. Thousands of proposals from the most powerful beings in the galaxy. She rejected them all instantly. What does that mean? Suho shrugged. I don't know, but she accepted yours, a human who made an honest mistake. That has to mean something. Before Ji-won could respond, the door chimed again. A Valoran servant entered, placed a data tablet on the table, and left without speaking. Suho picked it up. Your schedule. Breakfast with the Empress every morning, cultural lessons in the afternoon, formal dinners with her staff, public appearances together. He looked at Ji-won. They're not wasting time. Ji-won changed into the formal suit. It felt strange, designed for human proportions but in Valoran style. Dark purple fabric with silver threading. He looked at himself in the reflective wall and barely recognized his own reflection. Commander Yuna arrived exactly 1 hour later. She looked at him and gave the smallest nod. Better. Come. They walked through more corridors until they reached a set of massive doors. 2 guards stood on either side, each holding weapons that hummed with energy. The doors opened silently. The room beyond was circular, with windows forming half the walls. Stars stretched out in every direction. In the center of the room stood Empress Hera. She had removed her formal robes. Now she wore simpler clothes, though still clearly expensive. Her hair was loose, falling past her shoulders like a waterfall of black silk. She looked younger somehow, more human, but her eyes still glowed with that golden light. Leave us, she said to Commander Yuna. The doors closed and Ji-won was alone with the Empress. His heart hammered in his chest. Sit, Hera said, gesturing to a low table with 2 cushions. Ji-won sat carefully. Hera settled across from him with fluid grace. She poured 2 cups of steaming liquid from a silver pot. Do you know what you did today? She asked. I made a terrible mistake, Ji-won said honestly. I wanted to compliment your appreciation of the flowers. I looked up what I thought was a respectful phrase. I didn't see the warnings. I'm sorry. I never meant to disrespect you or cause problems. Hera's expression didn't change. Do you know how many proposals I receive each year? No, Your Majesty. Hundreds. From warriors seeking to join their strength to mine, from politicians wanting power, from creatures who see only the throne, not the person who sits on it. She sipped her drink. 200 years of proposals, all seeking something from me. Not one was honest. Ji-won didn't know what to say to that. Then today, a nervous human diplomat, who cannot even pronounce our language correctly, makes a proposal by accident. Complete mistake. No hidden agenda, no political calculation, just pure innocent error. Something that might have been amusement flickered in her eyes. I found it refreshing. You accepted because I messed up? I accepted because it was the first genuine thing anyone has offered me in decades. Hera set down her cup. Do you want to know what I see when I look at you, Lee Ji-won? He nodded, not trusting his voice. Fear, confusion, worry about your people, but also honesty. You are not pretending to be braver than you are. You are not trying to impress me with false strength. You are simply yourself. She leaned forward slightly. That is rare in my world. I don't understand, Ji-won admitted. You could have anyone. Why go through with this? Because Valoran law gave me an opportunity. Hera's voice was calm, but something deeper moved beneath it. For 6 months, I can explore what it means to interact with someone who wants nothing from me. Someone who fears me but speaks anyway. Someone who made a mistake and now must face consequences with whatever courage he can find. She stood and walked to the window. Her silhouette against the stars was striking. "I will be honest with you, as you have been with me," Hara said. "I do not know if this will work. 6 months is both a long time and very short, but I am tired of being alone in a room full of people. I am tired of every conversation being a negotiation. So I will propose something to you." Jiwon stood as well, keeping a respectful distance. "What proposal?" "We both enter this arrangement with honesty. You will learn our culture. I will learn about humans. We will spend these 6 months discovering if there is any possibility here, or if we are simply too different. At the end, we will decide together whether to continue or separate with honor. And if we separate, my people are safe? I give you my word as Empress. If we separate honorably, there will be no consequences for humanity. The engagement was legal. The separation will be legal. Your people's reputation will be intact." Jiwon thought about it. 6 months of trying to understand an alien culture, living on a warship, engaged to a woman who could probably kill him with one hand, but also 6 months of keeping Earth safe. And maybe, just maybe, learning about someone who seemed as lonely as he sometimes felt. "Okay," he said. "I'll try. Really try, not just pretend." Hara turned from the window and looked at him with those unsettling golden eyes. "That is all I ask." She returned to the table and pulled up a holographic display. "Then we begin immediately. These are the basic cultural protocols you must learn. We will start with simple things. How to greet Valoran officials. How to behave at formal dinners. The meaning of our traditional ceremonies." They spent the next 3 hours going over information. Hara was a patient teacher, correcting his pronunciation without mockery. When he struggled with a complicated gesture, she demonstrated it slowly until he understood. Jiwon found himself relaxing slightly. Away from the crowds and politics, Hera seemed less like an untouchable empress and more like a very intelligent, very isolated person trying to connect. "Why did you become empress?" he asked during a break. Hera was quiet for a moment. "That is a long story. One I will tell you another time, if we continue these conversations." "We have 6 months of conversations," Jiwon pointed out. "Indeed we do." She stood. "It is late. You should rest. Tomorrow begins your true education. Commander Yuna will oversee your cultural training. She is harsh but fair. Do not disappoint her." Jiwon stood and attempted the formal bow she had taught him. It felt less awkward now. "Li Jiwon," Hara said as he reached the door. "Thank you for being honest with me. It has been a long time since anyone was." Back in his quarters, Jiwon found Suho waiting for him. "Well?" Suho asked. "How was dinner with your Empress fiancé?" "Strange," Jiwon said, "but not terrible. She seems lonely, Suho, really lonely." "The most powerful person in the galaxy is lonely?" "I think that's exactly why she's lonely." Jiwon looked out his window at the stars. "Everyone wants something from her. Everyone sees the crown, not the person." Suho was quiet. "And you?" "I see someone who accepted my stupid mistake because it was the first honest thing offered to her in 200 years. Jiwon shook his head. "I don't know if I can do this. 6 months learning an alien culture, pretending to be worthy of an empress. But I have to try." "Not pretending," Suho corrected. "Really trying. There's a difference." That night, Jiwon lay in a bed that was too large and too firm, on a ship full of aliens who doubted him, engaged to a woman who terrified and intrigued him in equal measure. He thought about his family on Earth, who probably didn't even know yet what had happened. He thought about the massive responsibility now resting on his shoulders. But mostly he thought about Empress Hera standing by the window, silhouetted against infinity, admitting she was tired of being alone. 6 months suddenly seemed like both too long and not enough time at all. Every morning began at dawn, Valoran time. Commander Yuna arrived at his quarters precisely at 6, her expression suggesting she would rather be training warriors than babysitting a human. She drilled him on basic Valoran customs, how to stand in the presence of superiors. The 17 different formal greetings, each used in specific situations. The proper way to eat Valoran food, which involved utensils that seemed designed to be as complicated as possible. Jiwan made mistakes constantly. He used the wrong greeting with a senior officer and accidentally implied the man was his servant. He dropped a ceremonial cup during a formal tea service, and the sound of shattering crystal echoed through the silent room like a gunshot. He mispronounced a word during language lessons and apparently told his tutor that her face resembled rotting fruit. The Valoran crew watched every failure. He could feel their judgment, their certainty that this weak human would never be worthy of their Empress. On the 5th day, Jiwan sat alone in the training observation room, watching Valoran soldiers practice combat. They moved like water and struck like thunder. One warrior fought 3 opponents simultaneously and won in under a minute. These were the people whose culture he was supposed to understand, whose respect he was supposed to earn. It felt impossible. "You look defeated," a voice said. Jiwan turned to find Commander Yuna standing behind him. She held 2 containers of water and offered him one. "I'm trying," Jiwan said. "I really am, but I keep failing." "Yes," Yuna agreed, sitting beside him. "You fail constantly. Your pronunciation is terrible. Your posture is weak. You cannot even hold a ceremonial blade correctly." "Not helping," Jiwan muttered. "But you return every morning." Yuna's golden eyes fixed on him. "You fail, and you come back. You make mistakes, and you try again. Do you know what that is called in Valoran? Stupidity?" Yuna almost smiled, almost. "Persistence. We value strength, yes, but we also value those who do not surrender." "You are weak by our standards, Li Jiwan, but you are not a coward." It was the first kind thing any Valoran except the Empress had said to him. Jiwan felt something loosen in his chest. "The crew still hates me," he said. "They question you. That is different." Yuna stood. "Show them you belong here, not by becoming Valoran, but by being human in a way they can respect." She left before Jiwan could ask what that meant. That evening, Jiwan had his daily dinner with Empress Hera. They ate in her private dining room, a smaller space than the grand halls, but still larger than necessary for 2 people. The meals had become routine. Hera would ask about his day. Jiwan would admit his failures. She would offer quiet encouragement. Tonight felt different. "You seem less defeated," Hera observed, cutting into something that looked like meat but glowed faintly blue. "Commander Yuna said I'm not a coward," Jiwan said. "It's the best compliment I've received all week." Hera's lips curved slightly. "Yuna does not give empty praise. If she said that, she meant it." They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Jiwan had learned that Valorans didn't fill quiet moments with unnecessary talk. Silence was acceptable, even valued. "Tell me about Earth," Hera said suddenly. "Your home before you joined the diplomatic corps." Jiwan set down his utensils. "I grew up on a colony world called Sabyok. It means dawn in my language. Wide open spaces, 3 moons, purple grass. My parents were terraforming engineers. I spent my childhood watching them transform dead soil into farmland." "Why did you leave?" "Because I wanted to see more than one world. I wanted to understand how all these different species think, how they live. I wanted to build bridges." He laughed without humor. "I just never imagined building one like this." Do you regret it? Hara asked quietly. The proposal, I mean. If you could go back, knowing what would happen, would you stay silent? Jiwon thought about it honestly. I regret the embarrassment, the fear, making things difficult for my people. But would I choose to never meet you? He met her golden eyes. I don't know yet. Ask me again in 5 more months. Something shifted in Hara's expression. You continue to surprise me with your honesty. It's all I have to offer, Jiwon said. I'm not a warrior. I can't impress you with strength. I don't have political power or wealth. Just honesty. Hara stood and walked to the window. She did this often, Jiwon had noticed. Whenever conversations touched on something deeper, she looked at the stars. I became Empress 200 years ago, she said. I was a military commander. Our previous emperor was corrupt, leading us into pointless wars that killed millions. I gathered loyal forces and overthrew him. It was necessary, but it was also the end of my freedom. She turned to face him, and for the first time, Jiwon saw something vulnerable in her expression. From that day forward, I have been a symbol. The eternal Empress, the undefeated warrior, the perfect ruler. I make no mistakes. I show no weakness. I am always watching, always judging, always prepared for threats. Her voice dropped. It has been 2 centuries since someone looked at me and saw just a person. Jiwon stood slowly. I see a person, he said. A very intimidating person who could probably break me in half without trying. But still a person. Someone who seems tired of carrying everything alone. Hara looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She placed her right hand over her heart and bowed slightly. It was the gesture Jiwon had made when he accidentally proposed. Do you know what this truly means? She asked. The full translation? Not really. I just knew it was respectful. It means, I see beauty in your spirit and offer my own in return. In ancient Veloran culture, it was how warriors proposed to equals, not seeking power or advantage, offering partnership. Jiwon felt his face grow hot. I didn't know. I know. That is why I accepted. Hara lowered her hand. Every proposal I have received was about what they wanted from me. Yours was the first that offered something instead, even if you did not understand what you were offering. The moment stretched between them, heavy with meaning Jiwon didn't fully understand. I should go, he said finally. Early morning tomorrow, more lessons in not embarrassing myself. Hara nodded. Sleep well, Lee Jiwon. The second week brought new challenges. Commander Yuna decided Jiwon needed to understand Veloran military culture. She dragged him to training sessions at ungodly hours. He couldn't participate in the actual combat, obviously. He would die in seconds. But she made him watch, made him learn their strategies, their tactics, their philosophy of warfare. We do not fight for glory, Yuna explained as warriors sparred below them. We fight to protect. Every Veloran learns combat not to attack, but to defend what matters. What matters to you? Jiwon asked. Yuna was quiet for a moment. The Empress. She saved our people from a tyrant. We owe her our loyalty. Is that all? Just duty? No. Yuna's scarred face softened slightly. She is the best of us, strong but not cruel, powerful but not wasteful of life. In 200 years, she has never started a war, only ended them. She deserves more than loneliness. Jiwon looked at the commander with new understanding. You want this to work. The engagement. I want her to have one genuine thing in her life, Yuna said. If that is you, prove it. If not, be honest quickly so she does not hope for nothing. The pressure felt enormous. But it was also clarifying. This wasn't just about preventing war anymore. People were watching, hoping for something real in a universe of political games. 2 weeks became 3. Jiwon's Veloran improved. He stopped making the worst cultural mistakes. The crew still watched him, but the open hostility faded to cautious curiosity. He started teaching Hara about human culture during their dinners. He told her about earth music, how humans used rhythm and melody to express emotion. He explained human literature, stories about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. He showed her pictures of his family, his childhood home, the purple grass of Sabyok. Hara absorbed it all with intense focus. She asked questions that showed she was really listening, really trying to understand. Humans seem to value the individual, she observed one evening. Valoran culture emphasizes the collective, the good of the many. Both have merit, Jiwan said. But yes, we believe each person matters. Each voice deserves to be heard. Even voices that make mistakes, especially those. Mistakes mean someone was trying something new. Hara smiled, actually smiled, not just the slight curve of lips, but a real expression of amusement. Then by human standards, you are very brave. You make many new mistakes. Jiwan laughed. It felt good to laugh with her. 1 month into the engagement, something changed. Jiwan was walking through the ship's garden level, a beautiful space filled with plants from dozens of worlds. He turned a corner and found 3 Valoran officers blocking the path. "Human," one of them said. The word was not friendly. "Good evening," Jiwan replied, using the formal Valoran greeting. "You do not belong here," another officer said. "You are weak, an embarrassment. Our Empress deserves better than a creature who cannot even lift a training sword." Jiwan's heart raced, but he remembered Commander Yuna's words. "Show them you belong by being human in a way they can respect." "You're right," he said calmly. "I am weak by Valoran standards. I cannot fight like you. I cannot match your strength. But I am here honestly. I did not scheme my way into this. I made a mistake and faced the consequences. If your Empress can respect that, perhaps you could try as well." The officers looked taken aback. They had expected fear or anger, not calm agreement. "Besides," Jiwan continued, "strength takes many forms. You fight to protect what matters. I'm trying to build bridges so fighting becomes unnecessary. Both are valuable." One officer narrowed her eyes. Then, slowly, she placed her fist over her heart, a gesture of acknowledgement. The others followed. They walked past him without another word. But it felt like something had shifted. That night, Jiwan told Hara about the encounter. "You stood your ground without fighting," she said thoughtfully. "Very human. Very you. Was it the right choice? There is no single right choice in all situations. But it was honest. That matters more than you know." Jiwan looked at her across the dinner table. 1 month down. 5 to go. But somewhere in the past weeks, the impossible situation had become something else. Something that felt almost like friendship. Maybe even the beginning of something more. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For giving me a chance to prove myself, even though I arrived here by accident." Hera's golden eyes caught the light. "Perhaps the best things arrive by accident. We will see." They would indeed. The formal state dinner was supposed to be a simple affair. Jiwan had attended 3 already without incident. He was getting better at Valoran etiquette, better at navigating conversations with alien dignitaries who found humans curious at best. But tonight was different. Tonight, the Korvax delegation attended. The Korvax were predators in the truest sense. Reptilian, covered in blue-black scales, with eyes that tracked movement like hunters. Their empire was smaller than the Valorans, but no less dangerous. They respected strength and despised weakness. Jiwan knew this from his briefings. What he hadn't expected was their open contempt. Lord Tavik, the Korvax ambassador, was massive, even by their standards. He sat across from Jiwan at the long table, his yellow eyes fixed on the human like a snake watching prey. "So this is the human the Empress has chosen?" Tavik said in Galactic Common, his voice a low hiss. How disappointing. Empress Hera, seated at the head of the table, did not respond. Her face remained neutral. Jiwan understood why. To defend him would shame him further, suggest he couldn't handle words himself. I am honored by the Empress's consideration, Jiwan replied carefully. Tavik laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Honored? You stumbled into a proposal by accident. We all know the story. The human so ignorant of basic customs that he proposed marriage without meaning to. Other guests around the table shifted uncomfortably. Some Velorans looked angry at the insult to their Empress's choice. Others seemed to agree with Tavik. Ignorance can be corrected, Jiwan said. I am learning. Learning? Tavik leaned forward. What use is learning to one so fundamentally weak? Look at you, soft, small, no claws, no venom, no natural weapons. Humanity has been in the stars for barely 5 years, and already you think yourselves worthy of the oldest, strongest empire? The room had gone very quiet. Jiwan felt sweat forming on his back. He glanced at Hara. Her golden eyes met his, and he saw something there. Not permission to back down. A question. How will you handle this? Humanity survived Earth, Jiwan said slowly. A world that tried very hard to kill us. We had no claws or venom or natural weapons. We survived through cooperation, intelligence, and refusal to give up. Perhaps those qualities have value too. Tavik slammed his clawed hand on the table. Plates jumped. Words. Soft human words. I invoke the trial of worthiness. The Veloran guests gasped. Commander Yuna, standing behind the Empress, went rigid. You cannot, one Veloran official protested. That law is ancient. But still valid, Tavik said. Is it not written that any who question the worthiness of an imperial consort may invoke the trial? 3 challenges over 3 days to prove the proposed mate deserves their position? Hara spoke for the first time, her voice cold as ice. The law is valid, but it requires the challenged party to accept. All eyes turned to Jiwan. He understood the situation perfectly. If he refused, he looked like a coward and insulted Veloran tradition. If he accepted, he would face challenges designed for Veloran warriors. Challenges he would likely fail. But this was why he was here. To prove humanity could stand among the stars without backing down. I accept, Jiwan said. Tavik's grin showed many sharp teeth. Excellent. The challenges begin tomorrow at dawn. That night, Jiwan's quarters became a war room. Commander Yuna, Kim Suho, and several Veloran advisors crowded around a holographic display. The first challenge is traditionally mental, Yuna explained. Strategy, tactics, or problem-solving. The second tests spirit or character. The third tests courage, usually combat. I can't fight a Veloran warrior, Jiwan said. I'll die. The challenge doesn't have to be to the death, Suho offered weakly. Just until one party yields or is unable to continue. Very comforting. A soft chime announced a visitor. The room cleared quickly as Empress Hera entered. She looked at Jiwan with an expression he couldn't read. You should have refused, she said. Would you have respected me if I had? No, Hara admitted. But I would have understood. These challenges are not designed for humans. Then I'll face them as a human. Jiwan tried to sound confident. Use what I have instead of wishing for what I don't. Hara moved closer. In the dim light of his quarters, she looked less like an empress and more like the person he had been getting to know over dinners and conversations. Why did you accept? She asked quietly. Because I'm tired of people thinking humanity doesn't belong here. Because I'm tired of being seen as a mistake. He met her eyes. And because I think you deserve someone who won't run when things get difficult. Hara reached out and placed her hand over his. Her skin was warm, her touch gentle despite her strength. "Do not die for my honor," she said. "I would not forgive myself." "I don't plan to die at all," Ji-won replied. "I plan to survive with whatever human stubbornness I can manage." The first challenge began at dawn in the ship's strategy center. 5 Valoran military commanders sat across from Ji-won. Between them was a holographic war game, a complex simulation of fleet combat. "You will command the defensive forces," the lead commander explained. "We will attack. You must prevent us from achieving our objectives for 1 standard hour. This is the minimum for passing." Ji-won studied the display. The attacking forces outnumbered his defenders 3-1. This wasn't a fair test. It was designed to be impossible. The simulation began. The Valoran commanders moved with coordinated precision, their fleets cutting through Ji-won's defenses like knives. He tried conventional defensive strategies. They failed within minutes. 30 minutes passed. Ji-won had lost half his forces. Sweat dripped down his face. The commanders looked bored, certain of victory. Then Ji-won remembered something his father had told him about terraforming. "When you can't move the mountain, work around it." He stopped trying to match the Valorans in direct combat. Instead, he scattered his remaining forces. Using hit-and-run tactics, he targeted supply lines instead of fighting ships. He used the terrain of the simulation, asteroid fields and nebulas, to hide his smaller forces. The commanders had to adjust. They split their forces to chase his scattered units. Their coordination suffered. They were stronger, but Ji-won was making them work for every inch. The hour ended. Ji-won had lost the battle. His forces were decimated, but he had lasted the full time and forced the commanders to use tactics they hadn't planned for. "Unorthodox," the lead commander said. "Cowardly, some would say." "Effective," another commander countered. "He understood he could not win and chose to not lose instead. That shows intelligence." "He passes," the lead commander declared. "Barely." Ji-won slumped in his chair, exhausted. 1 down, 2 to go. The second challenge came the next day. Ji-won was led to a small, dark room. A Valoran priestess in white robes waited inside. "The meditation of truth," she explained. "You will enter sensory deprivation. In that space, your spirit will be examined. Deception, cowardice, or impurity of purpose will be revealed. Many fail this challenge by revealing themselves unworthy." They placed him in a tank of liquid that perfectly matched his body temperature. Darkness fell. Sound vanished. Ji-won floated in absolute nothingness. At first, it was peaceful. Then the quiet became oppressive. Ji-won's thoughts grew loud in the silence. Every doubt, every fear, every inadequacy screamed in his mind. He saw himself failing, disappointing Hara, bringing shame to humanity. He saw himself as the Valorans must see him, weak, small, unworthy. But beneath the fear, something else stirred. His core self, the reason he had joined the diplomatic corps in the first place. He genuinely wanted to understand other species. He genuinely believed cooperation was better than conquest. He genuinely cared about building bridges between worlds. And he cared about Hara. Not the Empress, not the political alliance. The person who stood by windows looking at stars, who smiled at his clumsy attempts to learn her language, who had been alone for 200 years. The darkness lifted. Ji-won gasped, returning to his body in the tank. The priestess helped him out. She studied his face for a long moment. "Pure of purpose," she declared. "Afraid, yes. Uncertain, yes. But genuine in your intentions. You pass." 2 down, 1 to go. The final challenge was announced that evening: combat in the arena. Ji-won would face a Valoran warrior in single battle. He had to either win or prove courage through refusal to surrender. "You will die," Commander Yuna said bluntly when she came to his quarters. The warrior chosen is skilled, but instructed not to kill if possible. But accidents happen. You will be hurt badly. I know, Jiwan said. His hands shook. Yuna sat down across from him. Listen carefully. You cannot win this fight with strength. You must win it by being so stubbornly human that even in defeat, you earn respect. Do you understand? Not really. Humans survived, Yuna said. You told Tavik that yourself. You survived through stubbornness and refusal to give up. Show them that tomorrow. Don't fight like a Valoran. Fight like a human. The arena was packed. It seemed every Valoran on the ship had come to watch. Lord Tavik sat in a place of honor, looking pleased. Empress Hera sat on her throne, her face carved from stone. Jiwan entered the arena in light armor. Across from him, a Valoran warrior twice his size waited, holding a training weapon that could still break bones. The fight began. Jiwan lasted maybe 30 seconds before he was on his back, pain exploding through his ribs. The warrior pulled back, giving him a chance to yield. Jiwan stood up. The warrior struck again. Jiwan tried to dodge, failed, took another brutal hit. He went down again. He stood up. This became the pattern. Jiwan couldn't match the warrior's speed or strength. He couldn't land a meaningful blow. But every time he was knocked down, he got back up. 5 minutes passed. 10. The crowd had gone quiet. This wasn't a fight anymore. It was something else. A human refusing to quit despite impossible odds. Jiwan's vision blurred. Blood ran from a cut above his eye. His body screamed for him to stay down. He got up anyway. The warrior paused. He looked at Jiwan with something like respect, then he attacked again. Jiwan tried something desperate. Instead of trying to block or dodge, he moved with the blow, using the warrior's own force to throw them both off balance. They crashed to the ground together. It wasn't skill. It was desperation and human unpredictability. But it worked for a moment. The warrior stood first and offered Jiwan a hand. Enough, he said. You have proven your courage. Jiwan took the hand, barely able to stand. The arena erupted, not in mockery, but in something else. Acknowledgement. Lord Tavik stood, his expression sour. He lost all 3 challenges. He passed all 3 challenges, Commander Yuna said loudly. He showed strategy, truth of spirit, and courage. The trial does not require victory, only worthy effort. Empress Hera rose from her throne. The crowd fell silent instantly. She descended to the arena floor and stood before Jiwan. Lead Jiwan, she said, her voice carrying through the space. You were challenged on your worthiness. You faced challenges designed for Valoran warriors, and you faced them as a human. You showed intelligence, honesty, and refusal to surrender. These qualities have value. She turned to address the crowd. Let it be known that I chose this human not despite his differences, but because of them. He shows us another way to be strong, through persistence, adaptability, and genuine courage. The crowd responded with the Valoran gesture of respect, fists over hearts. Jiwan swayed on his feet. Hera caught him before he fell. Come, she said softly. You have earned rest. In the medical bay, as doctors patched his injuries, Hera sat beside him. You could have died, she said, and he heard fear in her voice. But I didn't, Jiwan replied through split lips. And I think maybe some people see me differently now. I see you differently, Hera admitted. Before you were interesting, a puzzle. Now you are someone who fought for my honor when no one asked you to. She placed her forehead against his, the Valoran gesture of trust. Jiwan closed his eyes and let himself believe just for a moment that this impossible situation might actually work. Jiwan spent 3 days recovering from the trial. His ribs were cracked, his face swollen, and every movement hurt. But the pain felt oddly satisfying. He had survived something impossible and earned respect in the process. On the fourth day, Empress Hera sent a personal message. "When you are able, please come to my private chambers. There is something I wish to show you." No one except Hera's closest guards had ever been invited to her private chambers. Kim Suho helped Jiwon dress in formal attire, though moving his arms made him wince. "This is significant," Suho said. "Like really significant. The Empress doesn't let anyone into her personal space." "I noticed," Jiwon replied, trying to comb his hair with one hand while the other arm hung in a support sling. Commander Yuna escorted him through corridors he had never seen before, deeper into the heart of the ship. They passed through 3 security checkpoints before reaching a simple door that looked nothing like the grand entrances elsewhere. "The Empress values you," Yuna said quietly before the door opened. "Do not take that lightly." The chambers beyond were surprising. Jiwon had expected grand luxury, symbols of power and wealth. Instead, he found something more like a home. Books lined the walls, actual physical books from dozens of worlds. Plants grew in carefully tended containers. Art from various cultures decorated the space with quiet beauty. Hera stood by the window wearing simple robes instead of her formal dress. Her hair was loose, and she looked younger, more vulnerable. "Welcome," she said. "Please, sit. Can I offer you tea?" They settled on low cushions near a small table. Hera poured tea with her own hands, a gesture of informality that felt significant. "How are your injuries?" she asked. "Painful but healing. Worth it, I think. The crew speaks of little else, the human who would not surrender." Something that might have been pride flickered in her eyes. "You have changed opinions." They drank tea in comfortable silence. Jiwon looked around the room, noting personal touches everywhere. A Valoran musical instrument in one corner. A collection of stones from different worlds arranged on a shelf. A painting of a sunrise over purple mountains. "This room feels like you," he said. "Not the Empress, just Hera." She looked at him for a long moment. "That is why I invited you here. I want to show you who I am beneath the crown. If we are to continue this arrangement, you deserve to know." Hera stood and walked to a cabinet. She pulled out a small box and returned to sit across from Jiwon. Inside were old photographs, the kind printed on actual paper. "I was not born to rule," she began. 200 years ago, I was a military commander named Hera. Just Hera. I led a fleet against pirates threatening our outer colonies." She showed him a photograph of a much younger Valoran woman in combat armor, surrounded by soldiers. She looked fierce and happy. The emperor then was corrupt. He started wars for profit, sent young soldiers to die for his wealth. He taxed our people into poverty to build palaces. I watched good people suffer while he lived in luxury. Her voice remained calm, but Jiwon heard old pain beneath it. "I gathered loyal commanders. We planned carefully. It took 5 years of secret meetings, of building alliances, of waiting for the right moment. Then we struck." Another photograph showed Valoran soldiers marching through palace halls. The war lasted 3 months. Many died. Friends I had served with for decades fell in battle. But we won. We overthrew the corrupt emperor and his court. Hera's golden eyes met Jiwon's. "And then the people demanded I take the throne. You didn't want it?" "I wanted peace. I wanted to go home to my family, to rest after years of war. But there was no one else they trusted. The old imperial line was destroyed. Other nobles would have fought for power, starting new wars. So I accepted the burden." She showed him another photograph. A coronation ceremony, but the woman in the center looked grim rather than triumphant. "I have ruled for 2 centuries. I brought peace to our empire, ended the corrupt wars, built alliances with other species. But it cost me everything personal. I cannot show weakness, cannot make mistakes, cannot trust easily because everyone wants something from the Empress. Hera stood and walked to a wall covered in weapons. She removed a long blade from its mounting and brought it back. The metal was scarred and dented. "My sword from the Revolution," she said softly. "I keep it to remember what I fight for, but also to remember what I lost." She pulled aside part of her robe, revealing her shoulder. Scars crisscrossed her bronze skin, old battle wounds that had healed but never fully faded. "I am not invincible," Hera said. "I simply cannot afford to let anyone see my doubts, my fears, my loneliness. Until you stumbled into my life with your accidental proposal and your honest confusion." Jiwon set down his teacup carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand what you would be joining if this arrangement becomes permanent. I am not just an empress. I am someone who took power to save her people and then became trapped by that power. I am lonely, Jiwon. So very lonely." Before Jiwon could respond, the door chimed urgently. Commander Yuna entered, her expression grim. "Empress, we have a situation. Private word, please." Hera's demeanor shifted instantly. The vulnerable woman vanished, replaced by the commanding ruler. "Speak freely. Jiwon is trustworthy." Yuna glanced at Jiwon, then nodded. "We've intercepted communications. There's a conspiracy forming. Conservative Veloran nobles led by High Chancellor Daiho plan to assassinate Jiwon and frame it as human betrayal. They want to use it as justification to remove you from power and restart expansionist policies." The room went cold. Jiwon felt his heart hammering. "How certain are you?" Hera demanded. 80%. The communications were encrypted, but our intelligence analysts are confident. There's more. The conspiracy includes elements from the Korvax Dominion and possibly corrupt human officials who want to break the alliance. Hera's hands clenched into fists. "If they harm Jiwon, they believe they can claim I am too weak to protect my consort, that I am unfit to rule." "Exactly," Yuna confirmed. "And they've been planning this since the engagement was announced. The trial of worthiness was probably meant to kill him. When that failed, they moved to direct action." Jiwon tried to process this. People wanted him dead for political reasons. People wanted to use his death to hurt Hera and restart wars. His voice came out smaller than he intended. "What do we do?" Kim Suho burst through the door next, tablet in hand. "I've been investigating suspicious activities in the human delegation. Ambassador Park Min-ji contacted me privately. She's been compromised." "She's part of the conspiracy?" Jiwon felt betrayed. "No, they're using her. Her family on Earth is being held hostage. She's being forced to feed information to the conspirators or her parents and sister will be killed." The situation was spiraling. Jiwon looked at Hera, who stood perfectly still, her mind clearly racing through options. "When?" Hera asked. "When do they plan to strike?" "The Galactic Council Summit in 2 weeks, Yuna said. "They'll attack during the opening ceremonies, killing both you and Jiwon in front of representatives from every major species. It would destabilize the Council and justify Veloran military intervention." "We need evidence," Suho said. "Solid proof to expose the conspiracy before they can act." Hera moved to her desk and pulled up holographic displays. "Yuna, increase security around Jiwon immediately. Suho, work with our intelligence division to rescue Ambassador Park's family. We need her as an ally, not a compromised pawn." She turned to Jiwon. "I will not let them use you. I will not let them hurt you to get to me." "What can I do?" Jiwon asked. "I'm not a warrior or a spy. I'm just a diplomat." "You can do what humans do best," Hera said. "Think unconventionally. The conspirators expect us to hide to increase security and wait. What would a human do instead?" Jiwon thought about it. About human history, human tactics, human psychology. Let them think they're winning. Give them opportunities to expose themselves. Make them confident enough to make mistakes. Yuna raised an eyebrow. That is dangerous. It's also the only way to catch them in the act, Jiwan said. If we just increase security, they'll know we're aware. They'll change plans, wait for another opportunity. But if I seem vulnerable, if they think I'm isolated or careless, they might move sooner and sloppier. Hera looked at him with something like fear. You are suggesting making yourself bait. I'm suggesting we control the situation instead of reacting to it. Jiwan met her eyes. You showed me your scars tonight. You told me about taking risks for your people. Let me take a risk for mine. For us. The room was silent. Finally, Hera nodded slowly. We planned carefully, every step calculated. You will not go into danger without backup. Agreed? Agreed. They spent the next hours planning. Yuna would coordinate with loyal security forces. Suho would work with human intelligence to rescue Park Minji's family and turn her back into an asset. Jiwan would appear to go about normal activities, but actually be under constant hidden surveillance. When the others finally left, Jiwan and Hera were alone again in her chambers. I need to ask you something, Hera said quietly. The 6-month engagement period is half over. If we survive this conspiracy, if we expose the traitors and prevent the attack, what happens then? Jiwan understood what she was really asking. Are you asking if I want to stay beyond the 6 months? Yes. He moved closer to her, careful of his injuries. A few weeks ago, I would have said I don't know. This was all so overwhelming, so impossible. But tonight, you showed me who you really are. Not the Empress, just Hera, who fought for her people and has carried the weight alone for 2 centuries. And? Her voice was barely a whisper. And I think I'm falling for that person. The one who stands by windows looking at stars. The one who smiles when I make cultural mistakes. The one who is strong enough to admit she's lonely. Hera reached out and touched his face gently, mindful of his bruises. I am afraid, she admitted. Afraid of hoping for something that might be taken away. Afraid that these conspirators might succeed. Afraid that I am asking too much of you. You're not asking anything I'm not willing to give, Jiwan said. But we have to survive first. Then we can figure out what comes next. She placed her forehead against his in the Valoran gesture of trust and intimacy. They stood like that for a long moment. 2 people from different worlds trying to build something genuine in a universe of political games and deadly plots. Promise me something, Hera said. What? Do not die for my honor. Do not sacrifice yourself thinking it will save humanity. I would rather lose everything than lose you. Jiwan felt his chest tighten. I promise to fight to survive. That's all I can promise. Then fight with everything you have, and know that I will fight beside you. The next morning, Jiwan received a message from High Chancellor Daeho requesting a private meeting to discuss your future with the Empress. It was obviously a trap, but one they needed to spring. Jiwan stood in his quarters, looking at the message. Kim Suho stood beside him, both of them understanding what this meant. Are you sure? Suho asked. No, Jiwan admitted, but when have I been sure of anything since this started? He thought about recording a message to his family on Earth, something in case things went wrong, but that felt too much like admitting defeat. Instead, he sent a message to Hera, just 3 words. I trust you. Her response came immediately. And I trust you. Together. Jiwan took a deep breath and accepted the meeting with Daeho. The conspiracy was about to show its face, and when it did, they would be ready. At least, that was the plan. The meeting with High Chancellor Daeho took place in a neutral diplomatic facility on Nexus Prime. Jiwan wore a hidden recording device under his formal jacket. Commander Yuna and her team were positioned throughout the station, invisible but ready. Ji-won entered the private conference room. Daiho waited inside, a tall Valoran with silver streaks in his bronze skin marking his age. His eyes were cold and calculating. "Lee Ji-won," Daiho said with a smile that showed too many teeth. "Thank you for meeting with me." "You requested to discuss my future," Ji-won replied, keeping his voice neutral. "I am listening." Daiho gestured to a chair. They sat across from each other at a polished table. The room was designed for privacy, no windows, soundproofed walls. It made Ji-won nervous, but he kept his expression calm. "I will speak plainly," Daiho said. "The engagement between you and Empress Hara is a mistake. Not your fault, of course. You stumbled into this situation through ignorance, but it cannot continue." "The Empress seems satisfied with our arrangement." "The Empress is lonely and making poor decisions because of it," Daiho replied. "She sees in you some novelty, some entertainment. But you and I both know you are not suitable for the imperial throne. You are human, weak, temporary." Ji-won felt anger rising but pushed it down. This was about getting Daiho to reveal the conspiracy. "What are you proposing?" "Leave quietly. Return to Earth with generous compensation. Your people will be granted favorable trade agreements, technology transfers, protection. All you must do is invoke the separation clause and go home." Daiho leaned forward. "Everyone benefits. You escape an impossible situation. Earth gains advantages. The Empress returns to proper rule without distraction." "And if I refuse?" Daiho's expression hardened. "Then you will die. An unfortunate accident during the Council Summit. The Empress will be blamed for failing to protect you. Her weakness will be exposed. She will be removed from power, and proper leadership will be restored. The Valoran Empire will return to strength, and humanity will face economic isolation at best, military action at worst." There it was. The conspiracy laid bare. Ji-won's recording device captured every word. "You would kill me and overthrow the Empress," Ji-won said slowly. "For what? Power?" "For the Empire." Daiho stood, his voice rising. "Hera ended our expansion. She chose peace when we should have taken more territory, more resources. Under her rule, we have grown soft, allied with creatures like you instead of dominating as we should. Peace made you the strongest empire in the galaxy," Ji-won pointed out. "Peace made us weak." Daiho slammed his hand on the table. "We are warriors. We should rule through strength, not diplomacy. Hera's revolution was necessary, but her governance has been a failure. It is time for new leadership." "Leadership like yours?" Daiho smiled coldly. "I have supporters throughout the military and nobility, allies among the Korvax who understand the value of strength. Even humans in your own government who recognize that alliance with the Valorans will only make Earth a target." Ji-won's blood ran cold. "What humans?" "Officials who believe humanity should stay isolated, protected by distance rather than dangerous alliances. They have been most helpful in providing information." Daiho sat back down, relaxing. "You see, Ji-won, this is much bigger than you or your accidental proposal. This is about the future of the galaxy." "A future built on assassination and war," Ji-won said. "Built on strength and proper order." Daiho pulled out a small device. "I am giving you 24 hours to decide. Accept my offer and live. Refuse and die knowing you doomed both the Empress and your people." Ji-won stood carefully. "I need time to think." "Of course. But understand, the machinery is already in motion. The summit attack will happen regardless. Your only choice is whether you survive it." Ji-won left the room on shaking legs. Commander Yuna met him in the corridor, her expression grim. "We have it all recorded," she said quietly. "But there is a problem." "What problem?" "Ambassador Park Minji just contacted us. The situation is worse than we thought." They rushed to a secure communication room. Park Minji's face appeared on screen, and Ji-won's heart sank. She looked terrified and exhausted. "Ji-won, I'm so sorry," she said, tears in her eyes. "They have my family. They've been forcing me to report on your activities, your security arrangements, everything. I tried to resist, but they sent me a video of my mother." Her voice broke. "It's okay," Ji-won said gently. "We know it's not your fault. We're going to get your family back." "There's more," Minji continued. "The conspirators in the human government, they're high-ranking officials in the Colonial Security Division. They believe allying with aliens will bring Earth into galactic conflicts. They want humanity to remain isolated, and they're willing to let you die to prove that aliens can't be trusted." Kim Suho appeared beside Ji-won. "How many officials are compromised?" "At least 5 that I know of, maybe more." Minji wiped her eyes. "They're planning to use your death to push through isolation laws. No more alien contact, no more cultural exchange programs, complete withdrawal from galactic politics." The weight of it hit Ji-won. This wasn't just about stopping an assassination. This was about humanity's entire future among the stars. "We have 48 hours until the summit," Yuna said. "We need to coordinate with loyal elements in both Valoran and human governments. Rescue Minji's family, gather evidence against all conspirators, and somehow prevent the attack while exposing the plot publicly." "Can we do all that in 2 days?" Ji-won asked. "We have to try." The next 2 days were chaos. Suho coordinated with Earth security forces loyal to the diplomatic corps. They located Minji's family in a safe house guarded by the conspirators. A small team extracted them in a midnight raid, barely escaping with their lives. Commander Yuna worked with Valoran intelligence to identify all nobles and military officers involved in the plot. The conspiracy ran deeper than expected, with connections throughout the empire. Ji-won spent hours reviewing evidence with Empress Hara, planning how to expose the conspiracy at the summit without causing panic or violence. "We need them to move first," Hara said during one planning session. "If we simply announce the conspiracy, they will deny it. We need them to act, then reveal we knew all along." "So I'm still bait," Ji-won said. Hara's expression was pained. "I hate this plan. I hate putting you in danger. I hate it too. But it's the only way to protect both our peoples." The night before the summit, Ji-won couldn't sleep. He stood in his quarters aboard the Eternal Dawn, looking at the stars and thinking about how far he had come from that accidental proposal. A soft knock on his door. Empress Hara entered, wearing simple robes, her hair loose. "I could not sleep either," she said. They sat together by the window in comfortable silence. "If this goes wrong tomorrow," Ji-won said quietly, "I want you to know something. Do not speak of dying." "I'm not. I'm speaking about living." He turned to face her. "These past months, getting to know you, learning about your culture, seeing who you really are beneath the crown, it's been the most terrifying and wonderful experience of my life." Hera reached for his hand. "I feel the same. You have given me something I thought lost forever, genuine connection, someone who sees me, not what I represent. If we survive tomorrow, I want to stay. Not because of duty or politics, because I choose you." Her golden eyes shimmered with emotion. "And I choose you, Lee Ji-won, my accidental consort who became so much more." She leaned forward and kissed him. It was gentle and brief, but it felt like a promise. "Tomorrow we fight," Hara said. "Together." "Together," Ji-won agreed. The Galactic Council Summit opened with ceremony and grandeur. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the massive assembly hall on Nexus Prime. Ji-won sat beside Empress Hera on the raised platform reserved for major powers. Lord Tavik and the Korvax delegation were there, looking smug. High Chancellor Deho sat with other Valoran nobles, his expression neutral. The human delegation, now led by Kim Suho after Minji's recusal, sat in their designated area. Everything seemed normal, but Jiwon could feel the tension. Hidden among the crowd were Korvax mercenaries disguised as security. Valoran conspirators waited for their signal. This room would become a battlefield at any moment. Empress Hera stood to address the council. She spoke about cooperation, about the value of different species working together, about building a future of peace rather than conflict. And then it happened. Jiwon saw the movement first, a Korvax mercenary near the platform, reaching for a weapon. More movement throughout the crowd. The attack was beginning. "Now!" Jiwon shouted. Commander Yuna and her loyalists dropped their disguises. Valoran security forces appeared from hidden positions. Human guards loyal to the diplomatic corps moved to protect their delegation. Chaos erupted. The Korvax mercenaries attacked, but they were outnumbered. Daiho and the conspirator nobles tried to flee, but Yuna's forces had sealed the exits. An assassin broke through the initial defense line, weapon aimed at Empress Hera. Jiwon didn't think. He threw himself forward, putting his body between Hera and the weapon. Pain exploded in his shoulder. He fell, hearing Hera scream his name, but he had bought her a second. Just 1 second. It was enough. Empress Hera moved faster than Jiwon had ever seen. She disarmed the assassin with one strike and disabled him with another. Then she was in motion, flowing through the attackers like water, every movement precise and devastating. This was the warrior empress of legend, the one who had led revolutions and won wars. She was terrifying and magnificent, protecting Jiwon with absolute ferocity. Within minutes, it was over. The mercenaries were captured or neutralized. Daiho and the conspirator nobles were in custody. The entire Galactic Council had witnessed the attack and the swift response. Jiwon lay on the platform, pain radiating from his shoulder. Medical teams rushed forward. Hera knelt beside him, her hands gentle despite the violence she had just unleashed. "You jumped in front of a weapon for me," she said, her voice shaking. "You would have done the same," Jiwon managed through clenched teeth. "I am a warrior. You are a diplomat who keeps getting hurt protecting my honor." "That's love, I think," Jiwon said, then passed out. He woke 3 days later in a medical facility. The room was filled with flowers and well-wishes from across the galaxy. Kim Suho sat in a chair nearby, reading. "You're awake," Suho said, smiling with relief. "You scared everyone." "How bad?" "Weapon blast to the shoulder. Clean hit, no permanent damage. You'll recover fully." Suho set aside his tablet. "You've become a galactic celebrity, the human who took a blast for an alien empress. People are calling it the most romantic thing they've ever seen." Jiwon groaned. "Great. Just what I wanted." The door opened. Empress Hera entered, still wearing formal robes but looking exhausted. She dismissed Suho with a nod and moved to Jiwon's bedside. "You commanded me to live once," Jiwon said. "Guess I'm following orders." Hera's composure cracked. She sat on the edge of his bed and took his hand. "When I saw you fall, I thought I had lost you. I thought I was alone again." "Not alone," Jiwon said firmly. "Never alone again if you'll have me." "The 6-month engagement period ended while you were unconscious," Hera said quietly. "By Valoran law, we are no longer bound. You are free to leave if you choose." Jiwon looked at her tired, beautiful face, at the vulnerability she finally allowed herself to show. "Then I choose to stay. Not because of law or politics, because I love you." Empress Hera, who ruled 40 star systems and commanded legendary respect, smiled through tears. "And I love you, my accidental consort, who became my true choice." She leaned down and kissed him properly this time, and Jiwon knew he was exactly where he belonged. Jiwon spent 2 weeks recovering from his injury. The medical bay became a strange kind of home, with a constant stream of visitors. Kim Suho came daily with updates and gossip from across the galaxy. Commander Yuna visited to report on the conspiracy trials. Even Valoran crew members who had once doubted him stopped by to offer respect. But most importantly, Empress Hera came every evening. She would dismiss her guards and sit beside his bed, and they would talk for hours. Not as Empress and consort, but as two people getting to know each other without politics or pressure. On the 15th day, the doctors finally cleared Ji-won to leave. He returned to his quarters to find them filled with messages and gifts. Apparently, the story of the human who took a weapon blast for the Valoran Empress had spread across hundreds of worlds. Some called it romantic. Others called it foolish. Everyone agreed it was memorable. Ji-won sat on his bed reading through messages on his tablet. One from his parents on Saebyok, expressing terror at what he'd done and pride at his survival. One from Ambassador Park Minji, now reunited with her rescued family, thanking him for trusting her despite her forced betrayal. Dozens from fellow diplomats, both human and alien. But it was the last message that made him pause. From the Earth colonial government, delivered through official channels. The corrupt officials had been removed from power. The conspiracy had been exposed completely. But now Earth faced a choice. Continue forward with galactic integration, embracing alliances and cultural exchange, or pull back into isolation as some factions still wanted. And they were asking Ji-won for his recommendation. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Suho entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Real Earth coffee," Suho said, handing one to Ji-won. "Smuggled aboard at great personal risk and expense. You're welcome." Ji-won took it gratefully. The taste of home was bittersweet. "You've been thinking," Suho observed. "I can tell because you get this worried crease between your eyebrows. Earth wants my opinion on whether to stay engaged with galactic politics or withdraw." Ji-won set down the coffee. "What do I even say? I'm the diplomat who stumbled into an engagement by accident and then nearly got killed by conspirators. I'm not exactly a success story. You're the diplomat who earned the respect of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, exposed a conspiracy that threatened galactic peace, and proved that humanity belongs among the stars." Suho sat beside him. "Also, you're in love with an alien empress. That has to count for something." "It counts for everything," Ji-won admitted. "But is that enough reason to tell Earth to risk everything? Only you can answer that." Suho stood. "But you should probably talk to Hara first, about what happens next, for both of you." After Suho left, Ji-won requested a private meeting with the Empress. She invited him to her chambers again, the place where she had first shown him her true self. Hara waited by the window, watching stars drift past. She turned when Ji-won entered, and her expression was uncertain in a way he had never seen before. "How is your shoulder?" she asked. "Healing well. Doctors say no permanent damage." Ji-won moved to stand beside her at the window. "I need to talk to you about something important." "I need to talk to you as well," Hara said. "Please, you first." Ji-won took a breath. "Earth is asking if I think they should continue engaging with galactic politics or pull back into isolation. After everything that happened, some people think it's too dangerous, that humanity isn't ready. What do you think?" "I think isolation is safe but limiting. I think engagement is dangerous but necessary." He looked at her. "I think humanity needs to keep reaching for the stars even when it's scary. But I'm biased, because engagement brought me to you." Hara was quiet for a moment. "The 6-month period is over. By law, we are no longer engaged. I gave you freedom to choose your path. If you tell Earth to pull back, if you decide to return home, I will understand." "Is that what you want?" "I want you to be happy, to be safe, to have the life you choose, not the one circumstances forced on you." Ji-won turned to face her fully. Then I choose you. I choose this life, this impossible situation that somehow became real. I choose to stand beside you if you'll have me, not because of law or duty or politics, because I love you and I think we can build something amazing together. Hara's golden eyes shimmered with emotion. I have lived for 200 years. I have fought wars, ruled an empire, made decisions that affected billions. But choosing to let someone into my life, truly into my life, is the most terrifying thing I have ever done. Are you saying no? I am saying yes. She moved closer to him. Yes to choosing you. Yes to building a life together. Yes to showing the galaxy what cooperation between species can create. Jiwon felt something tight in his chest loosen. Then I should probably do this properly. He dropped to one knee, the way humans did for proposals. Hara looked surprised, then amused. Lee Jiwon, what are you doing? Something I should have done intentionally the first time. He placed his right hand over his heart, the Valoran gesture. Empress Hera, I see beauty in your spirit and offer my own in return. I offer partnership, not power. Alliance, not advantage. I offer my heart, my loyalty, and my sometimes questionable diplomatic skills. Will you marry me for real this time? Hera laughed. Actual joyful laughter. You already proposed by accident. You don't need to ask again. I want to ask. I want you to know this is my choice, freely given. So will you? She pulled him to his feet and placed her forehead against his. Indeed, she said, using the formal Valoran acceptance. Then she smiled and added in careful English, and yes, to all of it. The wedding was planned for 2 months later, giving time for preparations and for the galaxy to adjust to the idea. It would combine human and Valoran traditions, becoming a symbol of cooperation between species. Jiwon threw himself into planning with an enthusiasm that surprised everyone. He insisted on elements from both cultures, earth flowers and Valoran ceremonial medals, human music and Valoran warrior traditions, a ceremony that honored both their peoples. Kim Suho agreed to serve as best man. Commander Yuna stood with Hara as her honor guard. Ambassador Park Minji offered to officiate, representing the diplomatic corps that had started this entire journey. 2 weeks before the wedding, the Galactic Council officially recognized the marriage as a formal alliance between Earth and the Valoran Empire. It was unprecedented, a binding treaty between species based on a personal relationship. Some species approved, seeing it as a new model for galactic cooperation. Others were skeptical, believing it would end in disaster. Humanity was divided, some celebrating their representative marrying into power, others fearing what it might mean. Jiwon tried not to think about the pressure. He focused instead on small moments, teaching Hera about human dance, learning Valoran poetry, discovering that they both loved watching sunrises, even artificial ones, through ship viewports. The night before the wedding, Jiwon's parents arrived from Sebyok. Meeting them while engaged to an alien Empress was surreal. His mother cried. His father shook Hara's hand carefully, as if afraid he might break her, which was amusing given that she could probably lift him with one arm. You make my son happy, his mother said to Hara in halting Valoran. That is all that matters. Hara bowed respectfully. He makes me happy as well. I will treasure him. After his parents left for guest quarters, Jiwon stood with Hara on the observation deck. Are you nervous? She asked. Terrified, Jiwon admitted. Tomorrow we get married in front of representatives from hundreds of worlds. Our relationship will be analyzed and judged by entire civilizations. No pressure. We could run away, Hara suggested with a slight smile. Take a small ship. Disappear to some remote planet. Live quietly. Would you really do that? Leave the Empire? For you? Hara considered it. Perhaps, but I think we can do more good together here, showing the galaxy what partnership looks like. Then I guess we get married tomorrow. Indeed we do. The wedding day was perfect chaos. The ceremony took place aboard Nexus Prime, in a massive hall decorated with flowers from Earth and medals from Valora. Representatives from across the galaxy attended, along with media covering the event for their respective worlds. Jiwan wore a formal suit that blended human and Valoran design. When he saw Hera walking toward him in ceremonial robes that shimmered like starlight, his breath caught. She was beautiful and fierce, and choosing to walk this path with him. Ambassador Park Minji conducted the ceremony with grace, combining traditions from both cultures. They exchanged vows in both Valoran and Korean, promising partnership, respect, and love. When it came time for the symbolic gestures, Jiwan placed his hand over his heart and spoke the words he had accidentally said months ago. This time, he understood every syllable, every nuance. He was offering his spirit to hers, asking for partnership between equals. Hara responded, "Indeed," her voice carrying through the silent hall. Then she added in English, "And yes, forever yes." They sealed the vows with both a Valoran forehead touch and a human kiss. The crowd erupted in celebration, dozens of species cheering in dozens of languages. Later, at the reception, Jiwan found himself dancing with his new wife while the galaxy watched. "Do you regret it?" Hara asked quietly, moving with grace even to human music. "The accidental proposal that started everything?" Jiwan thought about the fear, the trials, the conspiracies, the near-death experiences. Then he thought about learning who Hara really was, about finding connection across impossible distance, about choosing love despite all the reasons not to. "I regret the embarrassment," he said, "the terror, almost dying, making things difficult for everyone. But not where it led, not this." Hera laughed, and the sound was beautiful. "Then I suppose we should be grateful for fortunate accidents." "Indeed we should." Months passed. Jiwan settled into his new role as Prince Consort and humanity's chief ambassador to the Valoran Empire. It was challenging, sometimes overwhelming, but never boring. He worked alongside Hara, helping bridge cultural gaps between species, promoting cooperation over conquest. The marriage became a symbol throughout the galaxy, proof that different species could not just coexist, but thrive together. Other alliances formed, inspired by their example. Trade increased. Cultural exchange programs expanded. The galaxy became more connected. Not everyone approved. There were still factions on Earth who thought humanity should stay isolated. Still Valoran nobles who believed their Empress had lowered herself. Still species that saw cooperation as weakness. But Jiwan and Hara faced it together. 1 year after the wedding, they hosted an anniversary celebration. Smaller than the wedding, mostly close friends and family. Commander Yuna gave a surprisingly emotional toast. Kim Suho told embarrassing stories about Jiwan's early days on the Eternal Dawn. Even some of the Valoran crew, who had initially doubted him, spoke about how he had earned their respect. That evening, Jiwan and Hara escaped to her private chambers, away from the celebration. "A year," Jiwan said, settling beside her on cushions by the window. "Seems both forever and no time at all." "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had read the warning labels on that cultural database?" Hara asked. "Every day," Jiwan admitted. "I would have made a different compliment. We would have exchanged polite words and never spoken again. You would still be alone. I would still be a minor diplomat going through the motions. Instead, you stumbled into my life and changed everything." "We changed everything," Jiwan corrected. "You chose to accept an accidental proposal. You chose to give me 6 months. You chose to see beyond what I was supposed to be and find what I actually am." Hara leaned against him, comfortable in a way she never was in public. "I have lived for 2 centuries. This year with you has been the happiest of my entire life. Ji-won kissed the top of her head. Mine too. And we have many more ahead of us. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars drift past the viewport. Out there, countless species lived their lives, pursuing dreams and building futures. Earth and Valora orbited their distant suns, connected now by a choice made in the space between fear and hope. Ji-won thought about the young diplomat who had nervously attended a reception, desperate not to cause an incident. He had caused the biggest incident possible, and it had led to something wonderful. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For saying indeed, when you could have said no. For giving an accidental proposal a chance to become something real." Hara turned to look at him, her golden eyes warm. "Thank you for making mistakes that brought you to me. For being honest when honesty was hard. For choosing to stay when you could have left." Outside their window, the galaxy turned slowly. Inside, two people from different worlds held each other and built their future one moment at a time. It had started with an accident, a wrong phrase, a misunderstood gesture, a cultural mistake that should have been a disaster. Instead, it became a love story that changed the galaxy. And every day, Ji-won woke up grateful for his fortunate accident. For the Empress who said indeed. For the impossible situation that became the best thing in his life. Years later, when asked about his advice for young diplomats, Ji-won would smile and say, "Read the warning labels. But also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Sometimes the best things happen by accident." And Empress Hara, listening from beside him, would add in her careful English, "Indeed, the very best things."